count 33 and 34 guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
On Thursday, May 30th, 2024, Donald Trump made history as the first ever former U.S. president to be convicted of a felony after a New York jury found him guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. The 78-year-old Trump also became the first major party presidential nominee to be convicted of a crime. If elected, he would become the first convicted felon to become a sitting U.S. president. Trump, who pleaded not guilty and denies the charges, remained defiant following the verdict, the first of 4 criminal cases against the former president. The other impending legal battles relate to his alleged conduct during the 2020 election and his handling of classified documents.
This is a scam. There's a rigged trial. The only way they think they can win this election is by doing exactly what they're doing right now, win it in the courts because they can't win it at the ballot box.
With just months to go until Americans head to the polls, the first ever criminal conviction for a former U.S. president may have had the opposite political effect one might expect in any other traditional election cycle. Just consider the stunning fact that Trump drew in a record fundraising haul of $53 million just within hours of the verdict.
Former President Donald Trump turning a guilty verdict into a major campaign gain. Right now, his campaign is touting more than $50 million raised in the 24 hours after his conviction.
Trump also joined TikTok, a platform which he attempted to ban during his first presidential term, and gained more than 4 million followers within 2 days of his conviction, eclipsing President Joe Biden's campaign account by about 10x.
The president is now on TikTok. It's my honor.
And while it's still unclear how the conviction will impact Trump politically, for some conservative commentators like Dr. Wayne Grudem, this is just the latest reason for the former president to drop out of the race entirely. In late 2023, nearly half a year before Trump's conviction, and just as Trump was leading the Republican field of nominees in almost every national poll, Grudem wrote an op-ed for Newsweek in which he urged Trump to drop out.
I was concerned that if Trump stays in the race and wins the Republican nomination, he is very likely to lose the general election. That would be, I think, disaster for the Republican Party, for conservatives in the United States generally, for the nation generally, and for Donald Trump in specific. Because if the Democrats win the general election and we get another Democratic president, they will simply accelerate their weaponization of federal agencies such as the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Internal Revenue Service.
And that, says Grudem, could lead to increased harassment and potential prosecution of Christian and conservative activists.
These agencies will increasingly attack and harass conservative groups, including many Christian groups. I didn't want that to happen, but Ian, from personal conversations with many, many Christian friends and others, there is such a dislike of Donald Trump that is much stronger than I've seen before in the previous 2 elections. And many conservative Republicans will vote for anybody but Trump.
Grudem believes, however unlikely, that if Trump were to bow out of the race, even as the presumptive GOP nominee, it could clear the way for a number of key conservative issues to gain traction in D.C.
If he will drop out, the mood of the country is much more sympathetic to conservative positions on a number of issues than it has been. In favor of closing the border, much more in favor of lower taxes, in favor of stronger military, issues that conservatives hold dear. And if Trump drops out and all his negative political baggage is not attached to a candidate, I think almost any Republican candidate could win the presidency.
But Grudem isn't exactly in the mainstream when it comes to conservative Christians and Donald Trump. In the 8 years between the 2016 and 2024 Iowa caucuses, Trump has more than doubled his support among white evangelicals.
There is some compelling data to back up how much white Christians, especially evangelicals, love Trump. Entrance polling from last night shows that 55% of the respondents were white evangelical Christians, and 53% of them voted for Trump. Now compare that to 2016, when 62% of respondents identified as white evangelicals, but only 21% voted for Donald Trump.
Dr. Ralph Reed, founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, says Christian voters are being asked to choose between two flawed candidates with polar opposite views on the topic of abortion, a key issue among evangelicals.
When Joe Biden, who is a mass-attending faithful Catholic, takes a position that he supports abortion on demand through the 9th month of pregnancy and wants to use taxpayer funds to pay for abortion under a Medicare for all or similar government-run healthcare plan, I mean, that is the most extreme position taken on the abortion issue in American history. And for people of faith who view the taking of innocent human life in the womb as a moral and biblical issue, they can't vote for candidates who take that position. So will they vote for Donald Trump, who they may not consider to be the greatest role model? They might not want him to be their pastor or priest or rabbi or, necessarily marry their daughter, but because the other side's agenda is so extreme and because he promised and continues to promise to stand for life and to appoint judges and justices who will defend life, it may be at times an uncomfortable decision, but it's a fraught decision, but it's not a hard decision if you believe that the taking of life in the womb is a moral issue. And we believe that abortion on demand is the gravest national evil of our time.
And it's not just single-issue voters that could be leaning toward Trump. After receiving backing from a majority of Black, Latino, and Asian American voters in 2020, Biden is now losing support among all three groups, with the number of likely Black Americans supporting Biden slipping from as high as 89% in 2020 down to just 33%, according to a recent University of Chicago Gen Forward survey. So why is it that more Black and Hispanic voters are indicating that they may be giving up on President Biden? Tim Head of the Faith and Freedom Coalition says it all points to a significant shift among likely Democratic voters.
Trump's past history in his first term as president, and then also just his kind of general persona actually is attractive to a lot of minority, especially African-American and Hispanic males. You've got this kind of both and of an extraordinarily weak leader in Biden and then a pretty strong personality and strong leader with a strong kind of background in Trump. And both of those add up to Trump got about 12.8% of the Black vote in 2020. And I think most political people believe that if the Republican were to get over 15% of the Black vote, that becomes basically an unfixable problem for the Democrat candidate. So there's a very interesting kind of shift going on in America right now.
This is especially notable when one considers Trump is approaching what many pundits believe to be a 50-50 split among Hispanic voters. And it comes just 8 years after controversy followed his now infamous "I love Hispanics" tweet in 2016, picturing him eating a taco bowl in Trump Tower, or his past accusation that Mexico has sent, quote, rapists and is, quote, bringing drugs and crime, quote, across the U.S. border.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, They're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
But all those missteps could be water under the bridge in 2024, as some evangelical leaders like Samuel Rodriguez, pastor and president of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, believes voters will look at the bigger picture when it comes to Trump.
You just take it from an objective perspective. Be objective about it. Look at the metrics. Look at the metrics. Put the name Donald Trump aside. Ask the question, give me the president with the following metrics: economy, low inflation, high GDP, college graduation rate, job security, border security, crime and lawlessness, etc. The major metrics. Donald Trump walks out with one of the highest scoring report cards in American history. I kid you not, do your due diligence. In the major metrics, put the name aside, be objective about it. Donald Trump hit like home run, home run, home run, home run on a number of issues that are critical to every American.
While a number of polls have seen Hispanic voter support for Trump soar from even 2020 levels, Rodriguez has a message for evangelicals who may still be on the fence. He says they need to separate Trump's rhetoric from his proposed policies.
Put the tweets aside. We're not asking about tweets. We're not asking about rhetoric. We're not asking about some of the side drama and commentary. We're talking about deliverables. From a business perspective, deliverables, my friend. The return on investment. Wow. Remarkable. This is the reason why I do believe not only the majority of evangelicals, but even a greater percentage of Latinos, Hispanics will vote for President Trump in 2024. Because Latinos have great concern regarding the economy, great concerns, a multi-generational legacy of wealth to the next generation. What am I leaving to my kids? Because of that, they're going to vote for Trump.
Other evangelical leaders, however, like Dr. Gabriel Seguero, head of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition, are urging Hispanic voters to see themselves not in partisan terms, but rather as a potential game-changing constituency in 2024. Americans have had enough of supporting companies that don't share our values. Tired of compromise? Switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They offer dependable nationwide wireless coverage, giving you the same coverage you're used to while defending biblical values. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Christian Post or call 817-286-4773. Get free activation with offer code Christian Post. patriotmobile.com/Christian Post or call 817-286-4773.
My advice for Hispanic evangelical voters is for us to continue to be the quintessential swing voters, to not facilely or simplistically endorse any candidate. I think that that's where our political influence is. I think that the hyper-partisanship that is tearing this country apart is not helpful to our democracy. I myself am a registered independent, not party affiliated, and I think that we can both affirm what is right when a party does it or also critique it. I think that blind allegiance to any political party actually hurts us from moving policy that is gospel-centered and biblically based forward. I, for a long time, have eschewed being co-opted by any political party, and that's been my advice. And so we should critique them when they're doing the wrong thing and affirm them when they're doing the right thing.
Salguero noted the example of Trump's 2024 campaign trail warning that illegal immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of America.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them.
I think it's very unhelpful and, quite frankly, for our community, toxic when you start using language like the presumed Republican nominee at this point about poisoning the blood of the country. I think that's not helpful.
Such grievances aside, the former president doesn't make any secret about his courtship of evangelical voters. At the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in February, he described himself as a, quote, proud Christian.
As you know, the left is trying to shame Christians. They try and shame us. I'm a very proud Christian, actually.
Weeks earlier, on the eve of the Iowa caucuses, Trump shared a bizarre 3-minute video on social media which claimed, quote, God gave us Trump.
And on June 14th, 1946, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker, so God gave us Trump. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, fix this country, work all day, fight the Marxists, eat supper, then go to the Oval Office and stay past midnight at a meeting of the heads of state. So God made Trump.
And in a keynote address at the Faith and Freedom Coalition last June, Trump touted his record among evangelical voters, saying no president in U.S. history has, quote, fought for Christians, end quote, like he has.
But this isn't my campaign. This is our campaign. This has got to be our campaign. And with your help, we're going to see through this whole. We're going to see through it. We're going to take this job right to the finish, and we're going to have a country the likes of which we've never had before, better than ever. We'll have it better than ever. No president has ever fought for Christians as hard as I have. And I will keep on fighting, and I'll fight hard until I'm back behind that desk in the Oval Office, the resolute person. Resolute person.
As bombastic as such claims may sound to Trump's detractors, Iowa evangelicals like Cindy Carey of Des Moines largely agreed with Mr. Trump's self-assessment during the caucuses in January.
He supports life. He is somebody who loves America. He wants us to have closed borders so that we can be a nation. I wouldn't vote for him as my pastor. I want him to lead our nation back to that city on a hill, that shining city on a hill, which is what I believe we can be.
But regardless of the support Trump may garner from evangelicals in 2024, Grudem says there's a notable difference between supporting Christian-friendly policies and claiming to speak for American evangelicals at large.
I don't see anybody claiming that Trump is an evangelical Christian, nor do I see or hear from him any claim that he is a born-again Christian or that he understands what that is, what that means. He's gotten the support of Christians because the conservative political positions that he's adopted are positions that are very compatible with the worldview of the Bible taken as a whole, biblical worldview, limited government, lower taxes, productive economy, maximizing individual freedom and individual responsibility, strong military, strong emphasis on parental choice and parental responsibility in the education of children. So Trump has appreciated the support of evangelicals, as well as the support of many conservative Roman Catholics. But he surely doesn't speak for the Christian world. He doesn't purport to speak for the Christian world, nor do any Christian leaders that I know of think of Trump as their spokesman in matters of faith that are important to us.
Trump has also apparently stepped back from the pro-life stance he took in his 2016 and 2020 campaigns. In his first debate with Biden, Trump likened his view on abortion to that of former President Ronald Reagan, who, in his first year as governor of California, signed a bill which would allow for an abortion only in the event of a physical or mental threat to the mother and if the pregnancy was the product of rape or incest.
Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart, but you have to get elected also.
Author and commentator Denise Gitsom says, as both a pro-life advocate and lifelong Republican, she grieves over what she sees as the politicization of the church.
This is actually one of the most heartbreaking things. I feel like this is evidence to me that we have been so politicized in the church that we no longer stand for the things we've been fighting for decades. But I have this thing in me that says, why are we taking this lying down from our own candidate that we have supported so strongly? And I say we in terms of just the church has really embraced Trump. And I'm really disappointed that we didn't come out stronger the way that we would have if Biden had done that, right? Because let's be really clear. Life is not an issue that's to be left to governors or any person, any leader to decide. This is not only written into the foundations of our country, it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Without life, there's no liberty or pursuit of happiness. And so life is fundamental, but it's also from our Creator. That's not something that we get to make decisions on as legislators. So when anybody says this is something that's rightfully left to the states, well, actually it's not. You either stand for that principle or you don't.
Grudem, a political strategist who served under former President George W. Bush, also lamented the failure of Christians to hold Trump and other candidates accountable for compromising on not just abortion, but other key issues among evangelicals.
Listen, I'm a campaign strategist. Like I learned from Karl Rove. I know how to win elections, and I know when it's hard to win something because it's politically unpopular. But when have we decided as a church that we would stand? I don't care what the politicians do, but when have we as a church decided that we are going to stand with the politicians instead of with truth? And that's what breaks my heart more than anything.
Whether Christians love Trump or can't stand him, one fact is undeniable. He enjoyed a record turnout of Christian voters in 2020, particularly among white evangelicals who attend church regularly. A 2021 Pew Research Center survey found more than 8 in 10 white evangelical Protestant voters who attend religious services frequently, 85%, voted for Trump in 2020. When compared with those who attend services a few times a year or less, the pattern was almost exactly reversed. 58% picked Biden, while 40% voted for Trump. So should we expect another record-breaking evangelical turnout for Trump in 2024? Probably not, says Jason Yates of My Faith Votes.
There are many who love Trump and many who hate Trump. And even in the Christian circles, but certainly outside of the Christian circles. And so there may be many people who frustrated with the choices of maybe another Biden-Trump candidacy and election, that they choose to stay home. So I certainly hope not, because rather than the personalities, we need to be looking at the issues and who's going to best represent your point of views and protect the values that you hold dearest to you.
Author and commentator Craig Huey, on the other hand, expects a massive turnout of evangelical voters in 2024 and predicts the vast majority of them will cast their ballots for Trump.
It's 2020. Not only did Donald Trump do a horrible marketing job, but also pastors and evangelicals kind of were less involved and less engaged. And election day, very few pastors even mentioned there was an election in the surveys that we've taken. And when you talk about people who were volunteers or concentrating on the key swing states, unlike 2016, there weren't armies of evangelicals going door to door or making phone calls or doing social media or texting. 2020 was different. I believe 2024 is a pivotal year. I think that the church will be mobilized. Many may not like Donald Trump for a variety of reasons. There's many who don't like the fact that he oversaw the shutdown of the churches that ultimately turned out to be unconstitutional. They don't like the fact of some of his attitudes, statements, words that he uses. There's a number of different issues that they may not like. But if he is the nominee, I would say that you're going to find it could be as high as 84% of the evangelicals will vote. And I believe that the turnout of evangelicals will be far greater than it was in 2020.
All of this brings us to Trump's own claims of losing what he calls the, quote, rigged election in 2020. Such statements, while still unverified, have raised doubts among likely Trump voters about the integrity of the U.S. election system and whether their votes will truly and accurately be counted. Huey says while there has been some progress in the last 4 years, still plenty of questions, doubts, and perhaps even some surprises remain in the run-up to November 2024.
Election integrity is a major issue, and Christians, as well as all Americans, have to believe that their vote counts, it will be rightly counted, and wrong votes, illegal votes, are not counted. There is a lot of skepticism. If there's one good thing that started in 2022, is that the Republican Party began to understand that they had to have lawyers actively engaged in watching the polls and being involved. And right now, the Republicans have recruited an army of lawyers to be able to look at all the different polls in counties and states and be able to be there to stop any type of moves by the Register of Voters or the state Register of Voters or anything like that, that the secretaries of state, they would be able to put a stop to it to make sure that the 2024 election is done properly. So people can volunteer to be poll watchers. There's a massive move to get poll watchers to watch for election integrity. And so while it's not where we should be, it's better than what we were. And it's something where I believe that if the evangelicals get out and vote, we will overcome any type of election irregularities that might occur, because just the sheer invisible, powerful force that we have if we went out and did what we should do, and that is vote our values.
Get out and vote. Regardless of where the church may fall on all things Trump, that's one message we can all get behind. Border security, the economy, abortion, parental rights, the role of government. These are just some of the issues American voters are talking about heading into the 2024 election. As more Americans than ever before are expected to cast their ballot this November, the church is asking a much deeper question. What exactly does it mean to be a Christian voter in 2024? The Christian Post is proud to present Politics in the Pews at Fellowship Church in Grapevine, Texas, with leading evangelical voices from both sides of the political aisle. With just weeks to go before voters head to the polls, panelists from across the political spectrum will take the pulse of the church to help understand why this election really might be the most consequential in a generation and what specifically is at stake for both the church and the country at large. They'll also look at the Trump factor and the red herring of Christian nationalism, along with a roundtable discussion with leading Christian voices on the state of religious liberty in America in 2024 and beyond. For more information, visit politicsinthepews.com.